share this with you. Is this on?
Yep, it's on.
I have to share this with you because to me it was a highlight of my career as a paratrooper in Europe. We were closing at the end of the war was coming to an end, and we were rushing around in different spots and getting people or getting organizations and the SS that didn't want to give up. So we had, I think I covered 5 countries in a matter of just a few months at a time. But the greatest thing about what it was some of the beautiful country we've seen. We were in areas where there was no war, up in Bavaria and elsewhere. You got little villages very similar to what we have here in the Pacific Northwest. Big, nice chalet, beautiful people who were not fighting a war. But one experience I had that I'll always remember was how we took 212 prisoners, a buddy and I. And we got permission. There was a big ski chalet right close to the village where we were stationed at the time. And I got permission from my officer so I could go up and go see if there's any skis in that building. And another boy from the Pacific Northwest who could ski also. So we both tramped through about 6-8 inches of snow up this hill to this beautiful chalet. On top was a little cubicle on top, a little tiny little thing about kind of a view thing. We got up there and all of a sudden, this kid looks at me and he said, "Hey, there's footprints all over this place, Frank. What are we doing up here?" And I said, "It's too late now." I said, looking around, we walked around the building and sure enough, there's all kinds of footprints. Inside, we looked at the ladder that went up to this little chalet, this little thing up on top, and we was looking around and they had a whole view of where we just walked up. And I thought, oh boy, you can imagine the chills went down my back even right now thinking about that crazy place to be. Anyhow, we walking around and we followed the footprints down off the slope off of the hill there, and here was 212 prisoners, Germans waiting to be captured. And the officer came to me and spoke very good English. By the way, don't shoot, put your hand, everybody stop. And they were fully loaded. I mean, they all had all their weapons and it really was quite a shock for a couple of privates that went on the brain in their head up there in the country. Anyhow, we took him down to this German officer spoke better English than any of us. He was highly educated. By the way, he wanted to be friendly. He said, "We know the war's coming to an end, and we want to give up. Please, we will do anything you want." So he gave me his weapon, which I still have today. He gave me his automatic, and with all the shells and everything. And I said, no, you guys keep your weapons, and when you come on down, we're going to be turned into our compound right close by. We walked down over the hill, down into the road, marched into our village where the German prisoners were, and just before they got closer into someone they could see where the soldiers us guys were living. The sergeant up in front. Oh, by the way, I'm marching up in front. I'm in charge of this whole group. About private, but 200 guys walking around. You can imagine this dumb kid with all those prisoners walking. But anyhow, the sergeant said something in German. By the way, he clicked his heels and he started singing. To this day, just listening to that music, those guys were singing the beautiful. And you know how the Germans are, how they got beautiful choruses and beautiful voices. And I'll never forget that. Come marching in, and these guys were singing it. And I'm sure they were singing, they're glad that the war is over for them, and they're glad that the Russians didn't get them, they're glad that the Americans got them. So anyhow, we took them in, turned them in, And about 4 days later, my buddy says, Frank, he says, you know, we did quite a thing. 212 prisoners. By the way, we never did know the count until they told us after we turned them in. We didn't count them. We were pretty busy. We weren't counting. And so, anyhow, we asked, my buddy comes to me and he says, hey, Frankie, he says, what's the deal about all these prisoners? He says, don't you think we ought to get something? I mean, it should be some kind of a medal of some sort. I said, well, of course, there must be some kind of medal. I said, you get a medal for about everything you do. I said, in the Army. And my gosh, how many guys do you know that have captured that many prisoners? And I go, I don't know that many. And he said, what the heck? So I'm just, well, I don't know where it got. I'm being a quiet type of person. He gives me all this charge. I'm in charge of it. So I go to my captain and I said, sir, I says, you know about the prisoners we brought in, and is there some kind of recognition that you have for this type of thing? I mean, you know, that doesn't happen every day. He said, no, he says, you're right, Frank. He said, oh, by the way, they don't call you by your first name, they call you by your last name. I'm sorry, got mixed there. And he says, but my biggest is, yes, that is, we don't have every private in our outfit in capturing people like this. He says, that was a very big feat, he says, and I want to commend you that you guys did a beautiful job. But I want to tell you something before you go any further. They captured you, Frank. You didn't capture them. Wait a minute. Frank, when you started up that hill, they had you guys zeroed in. You were in a line of fire, sitting there. They even had a couple of guys were zeroed in, I guess. No, you didn't capture anybody. They captured you. And they were so glad that you were part German. For being a German and a German, that was fantastic. They thought that was pretty great. So anyhow, in my outfit, all the time I was in that unit, I had that distinction of my buddy and I were the only two guys that captured 212 German prisoners one day.